Mike Bond here at UFC 240 Media Day with Frankie Edgar, who challenges Max Holloway for the UFC featherweight title in the main event. Frankie, back in another title fight situation. You've been here a lot. Does this one feel any different at all? I mean, do you build them up differently in your head, or is it just, fight week is fight week?
It's fight week. I know what's going on. I'm on this stage by myself, so, it's definitely a little bit more implications, and the fact that time's ticking, and these opportunities don't come around often.
Was there any part of you that thought maybe this UFC title opportunity wouldn't come around again? I mean, especially after the Ortega fight, particularly.
Yeah, after a loss, you think the worst always. It's the end of the world, at least for myself. But I have a way of bouncing back, and kind of taking myself out of the ashes. And I've done it time and time again. So here we are, 2 days out from fighting for another title.
What does it say about you that the UFC would put you in that spot? Because Dana, I think, just doing interviews yesterday, and he was talking about why you were the one, put in this position to challenge for the title, and he's like, he took that Ortega fight, maybe didn't go his way, but then you came back a month later, got another win, and I think they needed you on that card as well in New Jersey a little bit. So it seems like they have a massive amount of respect for you. Is that kind of the feeling you get as well?
I do. I put it on for them. I perform for them. I've never really turned down a fight, an opponent. And they rewarded me, I go to bat for them, they went to bat for me.
And if this fight goes into a third round, you'll be the first fighter in history to make 7 hours of cage time, which is just really incredible. I mean, does it feel like you've spent that much time in the octagon at this point? I
mean, I sometimes my body does feel like it, but yeah, no, it's cool to be that guy, but I don't know how good it is for my body and my head, but I guess we'll find out in years to come.
I guess so. And the interesting thing that I saw when you look at you and Max on paper here, he only has a 1-inch reach advantage in terms of, and he is obviously the taller fighter, but when it comes to length, it's pretty close there. How does that factor into the fight? Does that benefit you? Obviously, he doesn't have that huge amount of reach over you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does. I never really pay attention to that stuff. I'm never the bigger guy in there, and I'm used to that. I'm used to not being the bigger guy. So for me, this is just the usual setup for myself. I got to go in there, I got to get inside, or I got to be outside.
Of course, you don't want to look past this opportunity, but you win this fight, and it seems like a lot of doors will be opening up in terms of what could come next. First thing I want to ask, I mean, we've seen in the UFC certain champions get immediate rematches, some don't. You got one yourself when you lost your lightweight belt. Do you think Max has done enough to get that position if he loses this fight?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's another guy that puts on for the UFC. And just based on his performances, I mean, Aldo had, such a storied reign at 45, but Max is really knocking on the door of being the best 45er ever.
And then there's also this thing with the stadium show coming up in Australia in October, potentially Alex Volkanovski. Does that interest you?
I mean, big fights always interest me. A lot has to get done, a lot of ifs that's got to go on. And who knows how, I'll be after a fight with Max Holloway. This could go 5 rounds, and October's not too far away.
And one thing you don't seem particularly keen on, though, I saw some other quotes from you, Henry Cejudo, the idea of him potentially coming up and going for a third belt. Does that fight not really, get you too excited, or do you not feel Henry maybe deserves that opportunity?
Yeah, I'm not thinking Henry quite a bit, especially at 45. I'm definitely not thinking Henry Cejudo.
Awesome. Well, last thing, in this fight, how do you beat Max Holloway on Saturday night?
I beat Max Holloway by showing up, fighting the best I ever fought.
Do you think that's what it takes? Does it take your best performance ever to win this fight?
I do. I think it's going to take my best performance ever.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Frankie.